Last episode we set up our dependency injection container, and a few episodes before that we created our buy stock service so that users can buy stocks, get the price from the financial modeling prep API, buy as many stocks as they want, and insert those transactions into the database. But now it's time to provide the UI so that users can actually use that service. So to do that, we're going to be creating the BuyViewModel and the BuyView. So in this episode, we're really going to be going through the full MVVM process, view models, views, and commands all in one, and we're just going to do everything associated with buying stocks. So to start things off, let's go ahead and create our BuyViewModel. And this is going to be a simple class, of course. And there we go. Let's make that public, and let's inherit from our base view model. As we recall, the view model base is just an implementation of observable object. And if we need anything else down the road, we can add more things if we need something common for view models. So now we have this by view model, and let's just leave it as that for now. And while we're here, let's go ahead and create our by view. Now this is going to be a user control. By view, and let's just throw a text box in here, or a text block, and we'll just say buy stocks, just so that we can test to make sure that we're actually showing it. And now, as we recall, we have to go into our app.xaml and map our buy view model to our view, so that whenever the selected view model is a buy view model, it'll show the buy view. So to do that, just simple data template as we have done previously, and this time the type of the view model. So if a buy view model is shown in a content control, which is kind of like the root of our application, then we're going to show the buy view. And there we go, that is all good. And while we're here, we should get this set up so that we can test. So to do that, we're going to have to go into our simple trader abstract factory, because as we recall, this is the factory that our navigator uses to create views that are to be displayed. So we're going to have to create a new case right here for the buy view, which we actually haven't done yet. And we're also going to have to go back into our navigator and add a navigation tab to switch to the buy view. So we have a few things that we need to do. Let's go ahead and settle this by adding the buy enum to the view type. So there we go. And now we can go through here, say buy, and if the view type is buy, we're actually just gonna, let's just create a new buy view model for now, and we'll settle everything else later. So now let's go into our navigator, which is a control, navigation bar, and all we got to do is let's just copy all this, move that down here. We already have one, but we'll just replace it to make it easier. So it'll say buy, and what it's going to do is send a message to this update current view model command, but the view type is going to be buy. And then this button is automatically going to be checked if the selected view model is a buy view model. So our navigation bar should be good, and let's actually test this out. I think we should be good to see the buy view. Okay, so we're loaded up, and I actually want to set breakpoints from the top of the application. So this is the update current view model command, and this is what we're sending a message to from our navigation bar. So if I click buy, we're sending a message to this command. Our parameter is buy, because that's the view type. So we step through that, and then this navigator has a simple trader view model abstract factory, which is this right here. So we're going to go to that, and then we get the view type again is buy. So then we create a buy view model, And then back in our, let's actually go to our navigator. So if we go right here, this update current view model command is going to set the current view model on our navigator. And let's continue. We go here. We see we got the BuyView model from this factory. And now we are showing the ByView. So that's kind of like the MVVM rundown right there. But now we're ready to add on to this and set it up so that it uses our architecture and goes through our dependency injection container as well, because as we recall, we just created this BuyView model. And that's not actually what we want to do. So one thing we did with the previous view models is we have view model factories, but we're actually not going to be using a factory for the ByView model. And the reason for that is because when we switch views, I actually want the ByView model to be persistent. Okay, so I want it to, if you're on the ByView model and you're like halfway through buying a stock and say you want to go check your portfolio real quick, I don't want users to have to lose all of their information that they put into the ByView already. So basically the ByView model is going to retain its information, retain all of its state, even when you switch to a different view. When you come back, everything's still going to be there. So to do that, we're actually not going to create a factory, and we're actually just going to pass a view model through this constructor, and this view model is just going to maintain all the state. We're not going to create a new one. And it's just going to sit in this field up here. So we can go ahead and pass that through the constructor. And instead of newing it up right here, we can just set it. And this BuyViewModel is basically just going to be the same instance throughout the duration of the application. Now, what we need to do is we need to register the BuyViewModel in our dependency injection container. So we're just going to add it as a singleton. Actually, I'm not going to do a singleton. I'm going to add it as scoped, so that if anyone actually ever wants a different BuyView model, they can just create a new scope for it. And there we go. So that's all we have to do. And I'm actually going to move this down here with our main view model, which we also have registered as scoped. So now let's go back to our factory here. Let's put a breakpoint and let's run this. So now if we click on buy, as you can see, we have our BuyView model, and unfortunately we don't have any state on here, so I can't show you guys that it's the same instance, but we'll add on to this BuyView model in just a second. So now the next thing I want to do is, actually I want to talk about, I named this Simple Trader Abstract Factory, and I don't actually like that name because this really isn't an abstract factory. It's basically just a factory. It takes in a view type and gives you back a view model base. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to rename this, and we're just going to call it root Simple Trader View Model Factory, because this creates view models for the root of the application that are actually going to be displayed by our navigator. And then we're going to have to rename this as well right here. So root, and get rid of the abstract, because it ain't no abstract factory. It's a whole nother conversation. We're not going to get into that. But anyways, now that we have that all set up, we are ready to actually add some stuff to this ByView and ByView model. So I actually have a wireframe for this ByView that I have planned out. So let's bring that over here. And basically you enter a symbol right here, such as T for AT&T, I think it's like APPL for Apple, and then you're going to be able to search, and what it's going to do is bring up the information for the stock that you want to buy. You'll be able to enter the amount of shares that you want, and it'll show some statistics over here for what the transaction is going to look like before and after you complete it. And then with that information, you can decide if you want to buy, and when you buy, it'll use that buy stock service that we created and take into account all of this information. So let me just move that over here. I'll keep an eye on it while we create our view. So the first thing I see is that we kind of have two distinct rows right here. So we're going to create a row definition. And the first one is just going to be height auto. And that's pretty much just going to contain the search information. So the text box to enter a symbol and the button to submit a search. And I'm actually just going to leave that right now and fill in that row. So that row is going to be made up of a wrap panel, which is basically like a stack panel, but as your screen gets smaller, it'll wrap elements to new lines so that the view is a little bit more responsive. And inside here, we're just going to have a text, not a text block, a text box, and it's going to have some text, which we'll get to in a second. That's going to be based on a binding. And then it's also going to have a button. And that's going to have some stuff too, like a command. And the content is actually going to be, it's going to say search. I don't think I have a default style for buttons, so maybe I want to do that. But we'll do that a little bit down the road. Right now, we just want functionality. So let's actually talk about binding. So this text is going to be binded to a property on the view model so that we can get the name of the symbol that the user has typed on our view model. So to do that, let's go to our BuyViewModel and let's create a property that we can bind to. So it's going to be a string because it's going to be text that the user types, and we're just going to call it symbol. And I've used this prop change snippet. I believe I will actually put that in the description so you guys can download it. Basically, it just creates a full property with onPropertyChange already in the setters so that the UI is notified when this property changes. So now that we have this property, we can set up a binding to it. And that property name is symbol. And one thing we have to do is we have to set the update source trigger to property changed, so that when this property changes, the UI gets notified automatically. If you don't set this, if we look at these other values, such as lost focus, I'm pretty sure by default, this binding won't get sent up to the view model until you lose focus on the text box. So we actually don't want that. We want to get that symbol as soon as possible. So now that we can get the symbol, we're going to have to use it when we search for a stock. And to do that, we're going to need a command for that. So the command, we're just going to call it search symbol command. And we haven't actually created this command yet. We're going to have to do that on our view model. So let's go ahead. This can just be a simple property, an I command. And I already forget what we called it. Search symbol command. There we go. And we can import iCommand. Now at this time, I actually don't have a service to search for a stock, which is okay, because I think what I'm going to do for now is I'm just going to use the stock price service so that we can at least get the stock, or the price of the stock. Not the full information, not the company, or any of that, but we can at least get the price so that users can buy the stock. So now let's go into our commands and let's create a new command. And this will just be a simple class, and we'll call it the search symbol command. And what it's going to do is it's going to be an I command. So let's implement all of that. And it'll always be able to execute, at least for now. And then what it's going to have to do is it's going to have to use the view model. So it's going to have to take that through the constructor so that we can send information back to the view model. So let's import that. And then it's also going to have to use an iStockPriceService, which we've created in previous episodes. Basically, it takes in a symbol and gets the price of it. Now let's actually create some fields for these values. So we need a BuyViewModel, and we need a stock price service. And then we just take those through the constructor, and then we can use them however we want to. So what we're going to do is when we execute, we're going to use this stock price service to get the price of the symbol that is currently available on the view model. So let's create a double for that to hold that price, and we're going to use the stock price service to get the price of the symbol in the view model. So let's use our view model and get that symbol. And then we also are going to have to await this. So this is going to have to be an async void method. Async void, people get a little bit frightened about that. And one of the biggest problems with it is that if this throws an exception, we're not going to be able to handle it, which is okay because we're in a command anyways. We're not going to be able to, or the UI is just going to be calling this command, so we can't wrap the command execution in a try catch anyways. So we're going to have to wrap this in a try catch. And let's go ahead and put that snippet there. And for now, let's just use a message box actually, which isn't ideal. Or we can just say message box.show, and we'll just show e.message, which isn't ideal because down the road I want to actually handle specific exceptions and show those more elegantly on the view model. But for now, this will handle the exception and just throw a message. So we're going to get that stock price, and then we're going to have to send that stock price back to the view model. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually use our BuyViewModel and create another property right here, and this is going to be stock price. And then we can go back into this command and set that property to the price that we get back. And there we go. Let's go ahead and update this as well. And that should be good. So let's go ahead and put a breakpoint right here. And I think we are able to test this out. So let's run this application. And let's go to our ByView. And this looks disgusting. So I think what I'm going to have to do is actually set a width on this text box. So we'll set that to 100 for now. Let's get some margin in here as well. So we'll do like 10 to the left. Looks a little bit better. Let's give some margin on the top as well. Let's do 20 from the top. And let's actually put that up here. Get rid of all that. Okay, that's a little bit better. We could probably vertical, or let's horizontal align this. Okay, that's a little bit more respectable. It's going to need some work. We're going to need a style for buttons as well. But for now, let's test this out. So T for AT&T, and let's search. And oh, we never set the command. That's a problem. So let's go into here. And our BuyViewModel is going to have to create that search symbol command. So let's just go ahead and get that. Search symbol command. And this constructor is going to take this BuyViewModel, and it's going to need a stock price service as well, which we don't have, but we can get through this constructor. Let's import that, and that'll just be a stock price service. Just get passed directly into the command. So let's go ahead and run this again. And let's go to our ByView, and let's search for the stock. And there we go, we get the stock price, and then we set that on our view model. Okay, so now we're going to have to add that second part of our view model, or of our view. And before we do that, let's go ahead and create another row definition. This one will be star. So basically it's just going to take the remaining height of the window and dedicate it to this bottom portion. And this bottom portion, I think the control I want to use is probably another wrap panel actually. So it's going to go in the first row, and it's also going to have horizontal alignment of center. And instead of doing that, let's actually set that horizontal alignment up here instead, so we don't have to do it on each of these controls. And the first thing we want to put in this wrap panel is a border. And let's set some properties on here. So it's going to need a border brush. We'll just do black for now. And border thickness will just be 1. And inside of here, we're just going to show the stock information. So I should probably actually bring this up again. And let's close that out. Make it a little bit smaller. And so this is just going to be this right here. So in here, we're going to need a stack panel. And the first thing we're going to show is the symbol. So of course we have that on the view model, so we can bind to that. And another thing we're going to show under that is the price, so we can bind to that as well. I think we named it stock price, probably. And let's just add some margin in here as well, so we can look a little bit neater. So we'll have 10 on the top. And then we don't have company, we don't have change, because we're just getting the stock price back from that search. Ideally, we want to get the entire stock, but we'll have to create that service down the road. So that's going to be our first section. To the right of that, we're going to have another border. And it's just going to have the same properties as this. And inside here, we're going to have a little bit more to deal with. So let's create a stack panel in here as well. And the first row of the stack panel is going to be a wrap panel. So we're doing all kinds of panels in here. I want this to be as responsive as possible. So this wrap panel, one thing to note is that wrap panels, they automatically go horizontal. Stack panels go up and down. So if we look over here, we have a stack panel. And then the first thing in that stack panel is a wrap panel. So this wrap panel is just going to have a text block. And the text is going to be shares to buy. And then underneath that, let's go ahead and make that closed. Got all kinds of things going on here. To the right of that, we're going to have a text box. And this is going to be another binding to a property on our view model. So this binding is going to be the amount of shares to buy. So let's create that so that we can send that value back up to our view model. So this will be a prop change. I think it's just going to be an int because you can't buy 2.5 when you're just dealing with stocks. So let's make that shares to buy. And now we can bind to this shares to buy. And one thing to do is we're going to have to set that update source trigger to property changed, so we get it as soon as possible. And now we can move on to the next wrap panel. Let's go ahead and just copy all of this. And this will be price per share. And we have that on our view model, of course, but this isn't going to be a text block. It's just going to be a regular, or it's not going to be a text box. It's just going to be a regular text block. So we don't actually need update source trigger because it's just going to be a static element. And inside here, we're going to have a binding to the stock price. And then last but not least, underneath that, we're going to need a text block. And what it's going to do is it's going to take both of these and multiply them together to give us the total price. So that's actually going to have to be a property on our view model. and we'll just call that total price. And let's go ahead back into our view model and create a property for that. But one thing to note is this isn't going to be a full property, it's going to be a calculated property. So there's not going to be a private field, there's not going to be a setter. And I'll show you guys how that is going to work. So it's going to be a getter. All it's going to do is calculate shares to buy times stock price. I should make this public, or use the property, not the private. And it's just going to return that value. And it's going to actually have to be a double. And one thing to note is that we're going to want to be able to update this value when the shares to buy changes. So whenever the user is typing in this text box right here, we want this to automatically change. So we're going to have to set an onPropertyChanged for this value on shares to buy. So when the user sets a new shares to buy, it'll automatically update this calculated value, tell the UI, okay, a new total price value is available, go grab it and show it. And then last but not least, we're going to need a button to buy a stock. So we're just going to label that as buy, and the command is going to be a brand new command. Let's actually make this full screen again because we're kind of done with the UI for now. And this binding is going to be buy stock command, which we haven't created yet, so let's go ahead and create that. So it's going to be the buy stock command. Just like every other command, it'll be an I command. So let's implement all of that. And what it's going to do is it's going to take a reference to our view model, of course. So let's set up a field for that. And then it's also going to use our BuyStockService. So we're going to need a field for that as well. And then we can highlight all this, make a constructor for it. And now, let's actually set can execute to true for all the time for now. And then down here, we're going to have to do another try catch because this is going to be an async void. And inside of this try, what we're going to do is use that BuyStockService to buy a stock. And we actually don't have an account right now because we haven't really set up user authentication. So let's just create a new account right here for testing purposes. So BuyStock is also going to have to take this symbol, which we have on our BuyView model. So we can get the symbol, and then the amount of shares, we also have that on our BuyView model. So shares to buy. And now, what we're going to have to do is await this call, and it'll return the new account, which we can't really do anything with right now, but we'll get it anyways. And once we do that, I think I'll actually set a breakpoint right here. If it fails, we'll show something in the message box for now, of course. Let's grab that exception and just show the exceptions message. So now what we're going to do is go back to our BuyView model, and we're going to need to create that command. So this is going to be the BuyStock command. And then let's create that command down here. Let's not forget this time. And this command is going to take the BuyView model, but it's also going to need a BuyStockService. So let's get that from our constructor. And we have that registered in our dependency injection containers, so we should be able to get these services right off the bat. And now, let's go into here. We got our breakpoint. Not sure how this is going to work because I don't know if I have an account created, so this might fail. But let's actually put a breakpoint up here as well. So now let's test this out, and let's see how the UI looks as well. So we go to buy, and this looks awful. Actually, let's put in a symbol and search for it. Okay, so that looks a little bit better, but we're gonna have to clean some things up. So let's actually get some white space in here first of all. So let's add some padding on this. We'll give it 20. Put some padding on this as well. Alright, we're already starting to look a little bit better. And let's give some margin to all of this. So let's put, I think top bottom is all we need, so let's do that for all of these wrap panels. And we'll do it for each of these individual things as well. So that's a little bit better. Let's give this a width of 200. And actually 200 is a little bit too much. Let's give it 150. And let's do that as well down here so that they're both in line. And let's go ahead and give this a width of 50. There we go. And this is like the total price. So let's actually make this big. Let's make it like 32. Let's make the symbol big as well. And I think this needs to be horizontal aligned. Same with this. Alright, we're starting to look a little bit better here. Let's add some margin for this entire thing. So let's give like 10. And for some reason this isn't aligned. We're going to have to horizontal align this specifically. There we go. And last but not least, I think that might actually be all that I want to do for now. So let's go ahead and change this, make sure it updates. So there we go, we get 1, 2. So our calculated value is working. We're going to have to fix the rounding a little bit. Let's see if I can just do that right off the bat right here. So that is displayed right here. So string format. And I think what I want is, I think it's 0:C for currency. There we go, that's good. So if we switch that, rounds it, and we actually want that for all of these. Let's copy that string format. And that'll be the same for stock price. Right here and right here. Alright, we're starting to look a little bit better. And let's go ahead, can we vertical align this as well? There we go. I actually don't like that. We're not doing that. Now before I test this, I actually want to, I think my account setup is wrong. So let's go back to this BuyStock commands. And I believe if we click here, yeah, so the account ID that we actually have stored is 3. So let's go ahead and set that. And hopefully that'll increase our chances of this actually working. So now let's go into our BuyViewModel. We're going to buy T, search for that. We get the price back. We're going to buy 3 of them. And let's buy. And let's look at our account. So it has an asset transaction on it right here. 3 shares of T. So all is working. And that's actually where I'm going to wrap it up for this episode, because I think it's been going on for a very long time. And so we created our BuyViewModel, we set up our commands, we got a basic view laid out, and we got some bindings going to that. And one of the cool things we did is that since we set up our dependency injection container, it was super easy to get these services that we needed. But we simply don't have enough time to fully clean up this view. It's a little bit messy right now, but we'll fix it up. Anyways, if you have any questions, criticisms, or comments, be sure to leave them below in the comment section. But other than that, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like or subscribe for more. Thank you.